I've always been asked to make videos on YouTube and just share my thoughts and views about life and my beliefs. And I've always pushed that idea for another time, but I never knew that I will start making a video for YouTube at an event as this that I have just experienced along with my family, and that is the passing away of my mother. It's been a few days since my mother passed away, and it is a very, very difficult time. And life just took such a drastic and dramatic change just in a fraction of a few minutes. And it's crazy how we have been so caught up with so many things that are fleeting away, that are not important, and we have given them the utmost importance as compared to the things we take for granted, like our health, our relationships, the time that we have with our loved ones, and some of these important things that I have now realized to be important. I first want to thank all of you who have seen the funeral service of my mother and responded to what I had shared about her during the funeral service. And a lot of you all shared your love, your condolences, and your prayers, as well as support. And I really want to thank you all for it. It really means a lot that there are so many people out there who still wish for good and for comfort for someone you don't even know. And I'm very grateful to all of you who took the time out to reply, to DM, and then just share your love. So thank you very much. I am grateful to you for your efforts and your kindness, along with a lot of you sharing your condolences. Most of you, I should say, shared about going through a similar experience, an experience of a family mate either fighting cancer or having lost a family member or a loved one to this killer called cancer. And that just kept me thinking, because as days go by, somehow I feel like my memory and my thoughts are all rejuvenated and revived, where some things way back in the past that I have experienced suddenly come to life. And it keeps me pondering about how I wish I'd done something different. And yes, of course, all of us will go through that kind of an experience when we are at a juncture like I am. But I want to channelize these thoughts with the motive to help someone who's gone through the same thing or who's going through it right now. And yes, cancer is a very, very difficult disease for someone to have. I wish nobody has it, but it's out there, and it is a killer. And my heart goes out to those who are fighting this disease, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunties, whoever you are out there. I'm sorry that you're going through so much of pain. I wish you didn't have to, but some things are just not in our control, and all I can do is pray that you have the strength to go through it and come out victoriously. Yes, it is a killer that everyone knows, but it can be contained, and we can fight this. And I want to be a part of your fight, and that's why I'm making this video, hoping that it helps somebody. So, talking about my mother's journey, of course, I can't explain the whole thing in one video. Based on my mindset, my mood, based on what I remember, I decide to make my videos so that I can share it as and when I'm able to, because I'm still not okay, and I'm trying to, cope with my situation. So, my memory goes back years, about 9 years or even before, where my mother had a swelling in her right arm, and she connected that swelling to be the result of a fall that she had, maybe a year prior to that. And also, since my mother was very active on a two-wheeler, and she also worked at a corporate office with the mouse and all of those things, had a way of believing that the swelling of her arm was because of those things. Now, something very, very important that all of us need to understand is that our parents have a particular way of living, and they can be confounded to that way of living. My mother was very careful with her diet. She was very active. She had her regular walks. She did yoga. She was a very active person. She wasn't a foodie. She ate healthy. So she had all these things going well, and so she thought that was enough and that was okay. But one thing which is a very common thing that we see around is her thyroid, which was a problem. And she's had thyroid for about maybe 25 years or so. And she was on her medication of a few mgs of thyroxine, and she had to just pop these pills every day when she woke up. And because she did not see any physical change in her body, like a huge throat or anything as such, she took it for granted. And she would take the medicines on some days, she would skip it for a few days. And this went on for many years. And also a mentality of thinking, every time we think of hospitals, at least when our parents think about hospitals, they think of avoiding it as much as possible so that they can save money, they can save time, and stress and fear that can come along with it. And so all our parents have the habit of self-medication. Of course, for a cold or a cough or a fever, yes, we always knew that our parents were capable of taking care of us. But then we knew that that just wasn't enough when COVID hit us. And there are some other killers, like cancer too, that needs attention. So because my mother had a particular way of thinking, being a middle class, from a middle class family, and wanting to save the money, she kept thinking to herself, oh, this is because I ride the bike, or this swelling is because I'm always on the mouse and I'm working in the office. And that went on for, I think, 2.5 years. And because of that mentality, every time we went to the hospital, or we went to different hospitals, and my mother, being who she was, being the strong-headed, brave person that she was, also thought that she knew a lot of things. And so every time we went to the doctor, by the way, we visited about 40 different hospitals, 40 different doctors, with regard to her swelling in her arm. And every time we went to the doctor, her story would be, Doctor, I ride the bike, I had a fall a year back, and I use the mouse and I work at a certain position, and I have this swelling. So she, I think subconsciously, even got the doctors thinking in the direction she wanted them to think. And they started saying, oh, this is a nerve compression, or this is spondylitis, and that is why you have the swelling in your arm. And I think that was a big mistake, along with her negligence towards her thyroid. I wish if only my mother had gone to the doctor and said, I have this swelling, I don't know what it is, investigate. Do your investigation and find out what this is. I only wish that was done. We could have detected that the swelling in her arm was lymphedema accumulating in her arm, and it was the lymph nodes that were affected under her armpits and her right breast. Yes, they did spot a lymph node through, I think, an ultrasound many years back, and my mother went for a follow-up checkup to the doctor who did the ultrasound, but on that day that doctor was not available. She was on a holiday or leave or something like that, and there was her colleague who went through the report and said, this is nothing, this is normal, it happens to women, and brushed it under the carpet. If only there was an FNSE done, or if there was some investigation to make sure what this was, things would have been different. So with just this experience, my plea to doctors are, even if a patient comes very confident about the reason behind something that they are facing, or a symptom that they have, please investigate. Please go into detail. I know there is the fear of the bills being high, but trust me, I could have managed a heavy bill or a loan better than how I'm managing the loss of my mother. So, children, push your parents. They might say, I have a backache or something. Yes, we all go through normal backaches, but if it prolongs for a certain period of time, push for investigation. And doctors, please suggest for investigation, so that there is an option for patients to spot something if anything is wrong with them. And patients, or all of us, my plea to you is, please don't assume and presume that you know what is happening with your body. In the beginning, everyone thought it was a mild cough, or it was a cold, or it was a fever, or it was diarrhea, or it was body ache. We never knew that COVID was something that had spurred up and had the ability to cause so much of damage, that so many of us lost our lives. So yes, we can get sick, but if it's prolonged, please investigate. Please go to the right doctors and get yourself checked. This is my humble plea to both people and doctors out there. And when you go to the doctors, don't give them your own ideas, because doctors are humans too, and subconsciously we can direct them into thinking a particular way. My suggestion would be is just to go and say, these are my symptoms. Yes, these are the activities that I do, but I don't know the reason behind it. Can you please investigate? And that can help. If you don't have any issue, praise God. Just be happy that that's off your mind. But it's better than assuming and presuming and delaying a cure. And that's what I experienced in the recent. I experienced with my mother. We went to over 40 different doctors, and everybody misguided us, saying it is something else, and just neglected the fact that it was cancer, until her thyroid gland started growing inwards. Now again, she neglected her thyroid because it wasn't growing outwards. The thyroid gland wasn't growing outwards, it was growing inwards, and it was clogging her arteries around her neck and chest area. So in a CT scan, they spotted that the thyroid gland was growing downwards. And then we went back to her very senior doctor who was treating her for her thyroid, and he said, why have you been neglecting? You haven't come to visit me for so long. Anyways, go to this surgeon, Dr. P.S. Rao. And we went to him, and he looked at my mother's gland, throat, and he said, don't worry about it, I will take care of this, but I'm worried about your arm. And my mother kept telling him, don't worry about the arm. It's not what I'm here for. I have other doctors who are taking care of my arm. This is spondylitis. But this doctor, an old school doctor, mind you, an old school doctor, not the doctors we have now who are specialized in certain areas. Dr. P.S.V. Rao, who's slightly senior in his practice, had the wisdom to look at my mother's arm and say, that does not look like spondylitis to me. I'd like to know what that is. Don't worry about your thyroid. I can have a small opening done to remove the gland, and you'll be absolutely fine. But this is of some concern. And he was the one who investigated, went after the reason behind why my mother had the swelling in her right arm, and then found a small lymph node under her armpit. FNSE was not certain, mammograms were not certain, ultrasounds were not certain, until we took her into the operation room. She had her thyroid gland removed, and along with it she had her lymph node removed. Both were sent for biopsy. The thyroid gland was fine. It was just an overgrowth. It had overgrown, but the lymph node came in as malignant. And that was the beginning of the slow shattering of our family. And so that's how her journey began fighting cancer. Our journey began fighting cancer as a family. So I keep this video short, and I let you know that these are my pleas. These are my desires for those who are fighting cancer, and I hope that you all will pull through. And others, if you come across a situation like this, please pay attention. And I hope what I shared helped. I will continue making few more videos sharing my experiences then on, and what we did. I believe that I'm in a position to help because there are many people who I know personally who have fought cancer and have lost to it in 6 months, 8 months, 2 years. But I believed that it was because of first of all God's grace and wisdom enough to discern between the doctors we need to go to, the steps and actions that we need to take, that pulled us through to having our mom survive for 9 years. And of course, not all the 9 years were as difficult as how the last year has been, but I will share further things that will help you all definitely with dealing and fighting with this deadly disease, the killer cancer. God bless.